Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of the Ink Pod podcast. We got a very special guest here today,
Yeah.
Richard Tilley.
Hello, hello.
Richard's an independent traveling screen print tech. Richard, you definitely are in the limelight in all over social media. I've been following you for quite some time. Do you want to maybe just introduce yourself and talk a little bit how about you got into the industry?
Yeah. Well, they call me King Tilley in the industry.
Yeah.
And real name's Richard Tilley. But I've been screen printing, I think, realistically, since I was about 13 or so, somewhere in that range. I started designing T-shirts, not realizing that that's actually what I was doing, but I was making designs for T-shirts on Microsoft Paint. And so, like, I had this, like, really crappy computer that my mom got at like a yard sale or something. I remember the guy getting really excited because it had 500 megabytes of memory. That's how old this thing was. All right, 500 megs of memory, the whole hard drive. And
Crazy.
so I would go on Microsoft Paint and I would get images that I'd use those AOL, those free discs for the dial-up internet.
Oh yeah, that comes in the cereal.
Go online and find images, and then I would put them in Microsoft Paint and crop it, and then like make it look like a T-shirt. And I'd show everybody like, oh, I'm gonna make this. And then I printed my very first T-shirt in high school in my art class. I took a 0 period art class, and I was into breakdancing at the time. I was a little breakdancer, and I made this shirt with these like silhouette images of dudes doing breakdance moves just across the chest. I don't remember how the process, but I do remember the shirt. It was a white T-shirt with black ink on it. Looked terrible, but it was cool. And then when I officially like stepped into like the real screen printing space, where like I had to learn styles of T-shirts and what was popping at the time, and designing based on the community I'm trying to sell to, and that didn't happen until I was like 22, somewhere in that age. I was like really super strung out on drugs. I got into a really bad stint of drugs for a while. I was living like a Hollywood lifestyle at the Key Club and at the Rainbow Bar and Viper Room and all these other places hanging out. And it just got really ugly for me for a season in my life. And that's what actually pulled me out. Was I was homeless. Like, I didn't have my own place to live, but I was sleeping on this guy's couch in his garage. He had a 3-car garage, and 2-car garage was just where he stored his stuff. And then he had like an individual garage that he like boxed off at its own bedroom. It was like a tattoo studio, and he would do tattoos there. There was just like a couch on there, and I would get, messed up, and then I would just lay there until I, get some rest and get back on my feet and get back to it. And one night he comes in and he's like, "Hey man, you want to start a clothing company?" And I was like coming down or whatever at that time, and I just looked at him and I was like, "Man, like anything's better than this. Like, let's figure it out." So we knew this dude that worked at like Pac Sun or one of them some skate shop in Riverside, which was about 30 minutes from where I was.
Yeah.
And we'd go and pick this guy up because he knew how to use Photoshop. And so we'd go pick this guy up, drive him back to Moreno Valley where we were, and we'd sit there and design with him as much as we can, all these like ideas that we had, and I would watch him do everything on Photoshop, like watch how he did it all. And then we were like, all right, so we had our lineup of shirts, and we're like, how do we make these real? You know what I mean? We didn't know what printing a shirt looked like or anything like that. So we found this machine. It was a DTG machine. It was called like a T-Jet or something like that.
Oh yeah.
This was like 20 something years ago, or almost 20 years ago. And so we bought one of those. It was like 30 grand. We bought one of those, and what I did was I manipulated the machine. It had its own platen that came with it, but I went and bought some like plexiglass and made a really big platen, and then I went into the software and re-engineered it to where I could print the print area that I was looking for, which was neck, because at the time in the streetwear scene, people were doing the full prints. They were just screen printing the entire shirt laid down. So it was like
all over the shirt.
So we were the only ones that had a DTG machine, so our images looked really realistic, right? It wasn't like stenciled like screen printing is. And so we had like these really badass images, and they were huge. And then that's how I like got started in like the print world per se. But then once we went to wholesale these shirts, we would go to like all the mall stores. We knew a bunch of owners of different stores of streetwear brands, and we would talk to them about like, hey, we want to place our designs in your store, and we would negotiate wholesale pricing. That was something I didn't know about at the time either. And he's like, well, what's your wholesale? I was like, I don't know, like $18. And he was like, bro, I'm buying like $6 or $8 a shirt from like Famous Stars and Straps and like Hostility and all these big brands. I was like, he's like, no way. And I was like, well, I can't do it any cheaper. The fucking ink is so expensive.
The ink is $9.
Yeah, dude, it'd be like $30 an ink for one shirt, you know? And I was like, hey,
was there white? Was it CMYK plus white at that time?
I think so, yeah.
So you were printing on, you could print on blacks and stuff, right? Like you're pre-treating.
Yeah, so I was printing on blacks. Okay, cool. So we would do the pre-treat, heat press it, then throw it on the DTG, and then print these huge designs. So like, what? So it's because I couldn't sell to anybody other than our own audience. We were the first people selling shirts for like $45, like for an all style.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like I was doing that shit a long time ago. People trying to act like that's a new thing now, but whatever. Anyways, so we would do that stuff. But then I was like, okay, well, this is only selling to our online market, and I can't get us into stores because I can't get the price down enough. So what can I do with this thing? Well, I knew a gang of drug dealers from my all the people I kicked it with before. So what I would do is I would offer these guys to make them one-off t-shirts for like $100. They can come down. I would design it because I learned Photoshop, and then I would charge them $100 and print them whatever they wanted. So they would, because like those guys back then always wanted to be the freshest. They wanted to have something that nobody else had. So they always designed their own shirts, and that's like their D-boy shirts that they had. And so
that's so cool.
I used that machine for that, but it just like wasn't making sense. So I was like, all right, man, how do I make shirts for way cheaper than this, right? And then that's when I started looking further and further, and then came across screen printing, and I bought like a 6.6 manual. It was blue. I don't remember what company that was at that time. And I bought this little fucking baby dick dryer, like this little, like what would be like the like
toaster oven.
A little buddy or whatever, like one of those.
Oh yeah.
And, oh, bro, I jacked up a job. My first big production job, I hacked it so bad. Anyway, so what I did was to learn how to use this machine, because we didn't have YouTube University and anything like that at the time. It was like I had to go to this guy, go talk to the Chinese dude over here that knew what he was talking about, go over here, talk to my Mexican friends that are doing it in the garage, and I would just like pick pieces from everybody. And then it was so bad, bro. It was so bad. But what I did was I found this one guy that owned a trophy shop, and then he would offer screen printing. So like that was my first introduction to contract printing before I even knew that's what it was called, right? He's like, look, I'll pay you this much for this. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so I started making money doing it that way. And then I ended up getting my own warehouse and kind of building off of that. And then I went into a different industry for like 8 years after that. And then I came back.
What'd you jump into after that?
Well, I was into debt collections. So what I was doing, I worked for somebody for a couple of years, and they taught me the ins and outs of how the game works. So in short, what we would do is we'd buy these debt portfolios from brokers that buy directly from the banks. So HSBC, Bank of America, credit unions, credit card companies, Wells Fargo, whoever, anybody who had credit cards and bank accounts. And so we would buy from the brokers for a fraction of what the actual debt was. So in some cases, you would buy it for what's called basis points, which is fractions of a penny. So like half a penny would be 5 basis points. So like on the dollar, you're paying half a penny on the dollar per, for these accounts, right? So I'm buying $10 million worth of debt for 50,000 or 30,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And then the way we would do it is we would take these portfolios, and then I'd run it through a skip tracing software where it gives me all the data points on the person, where they live, who lives there, who's paying the utilities, what their place of employment is, all their relatives, every cell phone number to every single person, email account.
Wow.
I just get a full list of all their data. You have to be approved through the government to actually have this. You can't just pick anybody and go just skip
I hope so.
It's for law enforcement, so that's what it's intended for.
Okay.
And also debt collections as well. It falls into the same category of investigations. So we would do that, get the information, then I would create these spreadsheets, load it into our CRM software, and then I would distribute the accounts between the collectors. I had 120 collectors at my highest peak, We were hitting about 50,000 a day is what we were averaging each day, because we had 5 offices that we required to hit 10K a day. And so what we do is buy the file for like 50,000, and then in order for it to be considered liquidated, I want 6 times the investment. So we can get between 300 and 350,000 on that file. I'll move forward with another file, and we continue that process.
That's good margins, man.
Oh yeah, I was in like, we would get to the point of where we were doing like 35% profit. Like my partner and I were absolutely crushing it. We eliminated all the bullshit, and we just literally like got it down to where we were absolutely crushing it. So with that,
that's awesome.
Because I steered away from my passion, I just moved into this monetary system only, where I'm only focused on money, money, money. Anybody around me, that's all we're talking about. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
We don't care how we got to get it. We were playing in the gray area. We were doing all the things that you probably shouldn't be doing. And so over time, I kind of just got, because I had built this empire that didn't require me to run it, I kind of lost like my creativity, and like I didn't have a purpose anymore. I was just building this fucking machine. And I started getting back into the club scene, getting back into the drugs, and all that stuff. And that ended up being my demise from that industry. Was I was so fucked up for so long that my wife was like, "We got to get you out of here. You can't stay here in California anymore." So I went and talked to my partner, put a number on the desk. I said, "Hey man, this is what it's going to cost for me to get out of my half of the company." He's like, "Yeah, man, I can't pay that all at once, but let's work something out." Cool. So we worked a year-long deal out where I kind of just worked remotely, and then I was paid out what I had requested over the 12 months, which gave me the downtime I needed to kind of get my shit together. And then I started eliminating all the assets. I had a Bentley, got rid of that thing, had a couple Escalades, minimized it to one, had a classic DeVille, sold that, bought some equipment, and I just kind of started swapping assets around. And then so with the DeVille, when I sold that, I used all the money I got from that, bought somebody. I used my closing power from closing deals and collections. This guy was asking for like 30K for his equipment. I got him down to 5. You know, I almost felt bad.
Wow.
And then, so not only I like robbed him, but then I like did it in front of his face, and I took all his shit. You know what I mean? I pulled up with multiple trucks and just took all his stuff.
Oh man, man.
Yeah. Anyway, so
this was screen print equipment.
Yeah, it was all screen printing. So it was the thing was called like a Continental. It was an 8.8, I think it was. It was like a red. It almost looked like Anatol. I thought it was Anatol, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So I got one of those bad boys, and then I got it came with an Anatol dryer, a little red one. I don't know, maybe like 15 feet long or something. Wasn't really that. It was cool for what it was, but wasn't what I needed. And so I just used that same like energy that I built this multi-million-dollar business with into my own print shop. I just took over my sector, just dominated every area, got connected with everybody that I needed to be connected with, took all the work, did all that, played that whole game. And then I realized I'm standing at this manual press for like 18 hours a day, like 6 days a week. And I was like, all right, man, like this ain't it. You know what I mean? Like this ain't it. So
that's not life.
That's when we went to ISS Long Beach, when that year that they had Sublime. It was like 2018 or something like that.
Yep.
So went there. I had never been in front of a rock press before, or an auto at all. I didn't know them. I just went there to get familiar with them. I have this manifestation technique that I use. And so whenever I want something, I get close to it. I start to get close to these things with something that I desire, and I'll be around it. I'll see what it feels like. I'll pretend it's mine or imagine it's mine. And I just want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to know all of it. You know, I want the textures. I want everything. And so I get really familiar with it. I disappeared within a couple months, had a rock in my shop. And what happened was I was trying to go through rock, but they were like blowing me out of the water with some of the numbers. I was like, all right, I got to rethink this decision. So I found somebody selling one, a previously owned one, that had really low indexes on it. It was like 250,000 or something. And so I was in Idaho at the time. So I flew to Sacramento, California, where he was, with a duffel bag of tools, not even knowing what tools I needed to take this thing apart. I just grabbed anything that was in the shop, just random bag of, literally had no clothes, no nothing, a zip bag with tools in it. When I went to the airport, they were like, what the fuck is this? Anyway, so I flew down there. I pull up to the guy's shop, right? And he's like, where's your rock tech? And I was like, what's that?
It's me.
He was like, you're a rock technician. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. And he's like, well, who's taking this thing apart? And I was like, I am. He goes, have you worked on these before? I was like, no. And he's like, well, let me run it for you, make sure we're good on our end. You know what I mean? So after you leave, you're not responsible for anything. So everything worked as is, or as it should have. And I just started looking at him like, okay, so that looks like that does that. All right, that does that. That pulls this thing. Okay, so I'll take that. All right. And so I just took it apart, and then I just remembered how I took it apart and just reverse engineered that back, and it ran perfectly. Like,
Wow.
And what's crazy is I got this thing up and running, and then I was so scared to use it because I had such, like, my calendar was so booked that I didn't have downtime to sit and play with this thing. Like, because I didn't have anybody to train me, right? I never touched an auto in my life. All I know is manual. And so that thing sat in my shop for like 2 months before I even, like, tried. And I remember my buddy owned a gym next door. He came over and he's like, Rich, you get this thing running yet? And I was like, well, it's running, but I haven't used it. And he goes, quit being a bitch. By the end of the day, print me a t-shirt. And I was like, man, he just called me a bitch. All right. So
I'm printing some t-shirts.
So I went, started exposing some screens. I popped the first one. I figured out why I popped it, messed with it a little bit, did a little better on the second one, third one, and then, you know, this is where I'm at now. So
that's awesome, man. That's a really cool story.
With my shop, that was what happened. And there was a situation where I was at odds with the police department in the area because they were allowing this child abuse ring to continue and they weren't doing anything about it. And so I started vocalizing my opinion about it, and I shut one of the businesses down that was doing it. And the police department kept backing them up, kept giving me shit about it, and wouldn't do anything about it. And then someone tried to kill me in my shop one day, so we had to leave Idaho. Yeah, because we called these people out. And I wasn't stopping, and they were serious about whatever it is that they were doing. So I called another shop owner, rock owner that was nearby, like 20 minutes away. I was like, yo, I need this much money in my hand in the next 2 hours. I have to leave today. And he was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
And so he pulled up with a handful of cash, and my shop was cleared by 4 o'clock that day, and I was out of the town, and we were on to our next project.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. We had to leave our house, all of our stuff, whatever could fit into my Escalade, my wife's Suburban, is all we took, and we got out of Idaho. It was that serious. And come to find out, it wasn't the police department that we were battling with. It was the Russian mob who controls the police department in the area. And that's why the police department kept telling me to shut the fuck up. They were like, stop, stop, stop. And I was like, no, you're not doing shit. And so we were going against something much bigger than we had even known until like 6 months after we left.
Wow.
Yeah, they were that serious.
I'm like speechless. That's crazy.
Bro,
I mean,
I had to live that shit. You know how you say your leg was backwards and all that? Like, and you were like reliving it? Like, yeah, bro. Like, me and my wife and my family had to live that, bro. It was gnarly.
And from there you moved to where you are now?
So from there, we went and hid out in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, for like 3 months before I lost my mind. But so I went to Omaha just because my wife had some family there, and we just needed to lay low. We got some burner phones, got rid of our cells, got rid of all contacts, social media, everything was gone. Just literally, so all of our friends, nobody knew what happened to us. We just vanished. Wow. And I had kept Ryan Moore's phone number because he sent me a bulletproof vest because things were getting so bad that I always had my AK with me. I had a couple guns on me, and it was that bad, bro. It was so fucking bad. And I wanted to get him his vest back. So I hit him. I was like, yo, it's me. This is the number for right now. I got your vest. You know, I didn't know him that well at the time. So it's not like, I didn't know if he was like, this fool just took off with my shit, you know? So I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted to make sure I let him know that I'm going to send it back. And he's like, well, what are you going to do now? And I was like, dude, I have no clue. I had a little nest egg. I was like, I'm just going to chill for a little bit, trying to regroup my thoughts and figure out what the plan is moving forward. And then after like 3 months, I had just been losing my mind because I'm just always go, you know? And I'm just sitting there hiding for fucking months on end, you know? And so he's like, I got an opportunity for you if you're interested. You know, it's a traveling gig, but this is how much we pay, and all you got to do is live near an airport and you're good, bro. Like, we got you on the rest. And I was like, I don't know. It sounds kind of, I don't want to be away from my family, especially after all this shit, you know? And And so talked to my wife about it. She's like, let's entertain it. Let's see what it's about. So they sent me to Claremont, where the warehouse is, the Rock warehouse. And that's where I got my training, sat there with them for a couple weeks and trained. And then it just seemed like it just all made sense that I was there at that time for that reason. And just all this. So we left Nebraska and moved down to Florida. And I just worked out of the warehouse for a while. But I was a traveling technician at that time as well. But I was also refurbishing all their presses that were coming in, like from sales or repos or whatever. And I would make them brand new so that we could put them back on market. And so I was doing that for a little bit, but then I would also travel here and there. But now, like, I still work along with them, but I'm not like an actual like a team member. So now I just travel specifically, like, and I'm all over the place now, man.
And do you?
So that's how it started for me.
Hey, that's quite the story, man. I mean, when we ask that question, it's usually a lot more basic than that. It's like, I wanted to start my own T-shirt brand, and I started printing, and then from there, I started selling equipment or something like that. So you've definitely got the most interesting story so far.
Bro, check this out, though. This is what really trips me out. Is when I got stuck up on drugs and all that shit the first time, it was screen printing that saved me, right? Like, when my buddy's like on the couch, he's like, yo, you want to start a company? I was like, yes, please. I need a purpose or something, right? I need something to do to use my talent. And so that steered me away from all the shit I was doing. The drugs, the alcohol, like I just quit it all. I was like, yo, I'm focused over here. And I actually was doing something with it. And then when I had lost my way again, drugs and all the same nonsense again, stopped recalibrated. It was screen printing again that I put myself back into and took me away from all that shit. And this time it's for real. Like this time I'm like, I'm aware of what's going on and I'm like acting different than I was the last time, you know? So it's pretty cool.
So you got a lot of tats. I'm assuming screen printing saved your life a couple times. You must have a squeegee tatted somewhere.
No, I only have one tattoo, but
that one tattoo?
Yeah, it just
screen printing
my
tattoo.
whole entire body.
Oh, really? Eh?
My entire body. My entire body is covered. My whole head.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did you design it yourself on Photoshop by stealing images off AOL with CDs from free cereal? Yeah, man, that's a cool story. You know, one thing you mentioned, you were printing $100 T-shirts for drug dealers, and it just reminded me. I've never shared this before, but maybe I did. Part of my background prior to getting into owning my own print shop is I used to be a district manager for a clothing company called Style Exchange, and they were like a big boutique retailer. They were huge in Montreal, Shawn, and they sold like really high end, you know, clothing. Like they were the first ones to carry Canada Goose and Parajumper and Nobis and Truledge and Diesel and all that kind of stuff. And there was a brand that we used to carry, which is Montreal based, which is actually still out there. It's called Dom Rebel. Have you heard of them?
I don't think so.
No, never heard of him.
So it was like the Ed Hardy on steroids, and they would literally make T-shirts. Yeah, not as like kind of. It was weird. It was. I thought it was cooler, to be honest, at that time. But they made T-shirts that would start at $750 and go up to like $1,200, and they were Swarovski crystals. The entire, so they'd have a design and they'd be hand embellished. It was called their Atelier line, and we would release these, and we had a whole list of drug dealers. Like I'm talking like 100, 150 drug dealers that we knew. And before the drop, we would call them and say, hey,
let them know.
We got, 36 Dom Rebels coming in. They'd be like, how many mediums? And I'd be like, I got this many. They don't even know what to print. He's like, all right, set them aside and come buy them. No bullshit. They would drop like 10 Gs, 12 Gs
they're
on
always
these
liquid.
Dom Rebel T-shirts. Yeah.
Those guys are always liquid, so they're good. The thing is with like what I noticed about drug dealers and what I learned allegedly from being one is like your perception of money is way different. It just it comes and goes so fast that you don't really you don't care about it as much.
Yeah,
you can't put in the
understand
bank.
the value.
No.
They can't put in the bank, and a lot of drug dealers, a lot of them aren't going to figure out ways to wash the money and like open up, coin operated laundry
Unless
places or vending machines. I mean, the smart ones eventually get to that, but there's a lot that are like, all right, well, I got 20 G's under my mattress. I got to use it this month, So
Yep.
it's just like you said, easy come, easy go.
Exactly.
So, and you mentioned something else cool too, and it reminded me. You're talking about like how you like to get in front of something and touch something, you really manifest. I don't know if any of you guys saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
And that was like a big thing he talked about. Like he literally would manifest everything. Like when he won Mr. Olympia for the first time, he literally manifested the crowd and holding the trophy and like hearing the cheering.
What it is the thought comes first. And when that thought attaches to emotion, the emotion creates the action. So how deep that emotional like anchoring is that you tie to whatever it is the thought is will give you the amount of action you're willing to take to manifest whatever that is. So it's just it's an easy process. But yeah, man, I do it with a lot of stuff. I've always been like that.
Yeah. I've always been a big believer of that too. I like even when I started RB Digital, like I went in there with the mindset that like, hey, within this many years, I want to become a partner, and when I become vice president, I'm going to get this watch. And it's like every time I plan 1 or 2 years ahead of time, and I'm already like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then once I get that, I'm like, okay, in 2-3 years, I'm doing this, and it's important. It kind of gives you that roadmap. It's not like you're just waking up every single morning and going to work with no purpose. It's like you have these goals, whether they're 1 month, 1 year, 2 years away, and it's in that like subconsciously, that's like your checklist and your steps that you got to take to get to where you want. And you always think like when you get there, like, oh, you're going to be happy because that's like the epitome of where you want to reach. But then you get there and you're like, okay, now what's next? Now what's the crazier dream, right? And for me, that's always really motivated me to be. And I'm sure the same thing with you, Shawn. I'm sure when you started, you were like excited to get your first, printer printing wraps. And now you're up to 5, and like you probably never saw you getting 5, and now you're like, man, I want 20.
Yeah.
So do you service the motocross community?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. I used to. That's where I started doing like names and numbers on the back of jerseys when I was younger. But now, no, it's more like we're online. We're selling online. We do POD. We do car wraps. We do PPF, large format printing, things like that. That's our main goal. That's our focus, and we're really good at doing that, right? But yeah, even like for
that,
staff,
it comes a lot of. So what I've noticed with companies similar to yours, like a lot of the wrappers and decal signs, et cetera, they get a lot of people who want custom designs because you're customizing the wraps a lot of times. So you obviously have a graphic designer or designer team, and then they want merch that goes with that too. And so I would partner up with companies like yours. When I had my print shop this last time, I would partner up with companies like yours because I would just take on all the responsibility of all the garments, make sure they're good, and their art team would take care of the art side of it. It was a really helpful.
100%. We help both companies, right? So we're like for the apparel side of things, it's called Printees, and then the car wrap side is called 360 Auto Wraps. And we just feed each business, right? So if we get a car wrap client and they're like, oh, do you need apparel for your business? Obviously they do. So we just help them with that. And whenever we get somebody that wants to order custom apparel, we're like, hey, you want a car wrap? You want signs? Yeah. Yeah. So it's under the same roof, under the same thing.
He's got 2. Well, you got 2 rocks. I think 4 Pro Bs. He just got the Maki DTF, bunch of Tajimas that I sold him. The GTX 600, the brand new brother machine with Hexa. It was the first one in Canada. Yeah, man, he's a good customer for me.
I spoken into existence, right? To hit on that, like what you guys were saying, like manifesting and things like that. And I'm really big, like with the team here. It's just like not even just manifesting, but being careful with the words you say, because I feel like we speak it into existence. So like a really good book for me was it's by Trevor Mwawad. It's It Takes What It Takes. And it's stop saying stupid shit. Like for us in the shop is like, if something you don't need to say it, it's not going to bring us forward. Just don't say it. Like you're speaking it into existence. Like for example, oh, this client, we always mess up this order. Like why are you even saying that? You're saying like it's going to happen. Instead say, oh, you know what? We're going to make this order right for the first time. Like say it in a positive way, speaking into existence. So I'm really, really big and like not just touching it like Tilley, you're saying, like I love that. Like I manifested those and I watched those videos, right? I was saying it to the guys at Brother, like on that podcast that's not released yet, but we're going to have that digital line one day because I know like we're manifesting it. I know where it's going to go in the shop. I know how it's going to be there and how we're going to use and benefit it. Like it's big, like the way you use your words, right?
Yeah, well the thing is words hold vibration. Vibration sets a tone in the room, in the space, and that's a whole nother conversation. But it's the negative vibrations or the positive vibrations. So if you're pitching something negative or you're pitching something positive, and that will either raise or lower the frequency in the space that you're in. But what I was going to say was there's a way to manifest shit the wrong way though, and I want to actually share a story where I did it. I manifested a Lamborghini, which is what I wanted, but let me tell you how I fucked up. So what I did was I wanted this green Lamborghini. I didn't know like what the names were at the time of the different styles and all that shit. I just knew I wanted a green Lambo. I was so like dialed into that, right? I would see it, I would feel it. I remember I would sit there and I would feel the thrust of the engine. I would feel like the texture of the leather, the steering wheel. Like I would see the gauge doing its thing, all that. The stereo, like me twisting the knobs, all that shit. I would do everything, right? And so one day I'm having this photo shoot at my warehouse, and everybody, we had like all these skaters, the skate teams I sponsored, and I sponsored street bike riders, so they were all there. Everybody showed up with their motorcycles, Bel Airs, just everything, man. This place was like just packed. Look like a car show. And here comes that green Lamborghini. It was my buddies. He was like, hey, I wanted to give you this for your shoot. And I was like, there it is. There it is. That's the one I've been seeing. And the problem is that I didn't picture it being mine, right? I didn't see the title. I didn't go see myself making the payments on it. I didn't see all that. All I saw was it in my face, right? And boom, there it was. So when I desired another vehicle again, it was a Bentley Continental GT. That was a car that I wanted, and I really loved this thing. And so I was getting a lot of money for like years on end, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy this Bentley that I want. And so this time around, I borrowed my buddy's. He let me use it for like a weekend, and same thing, the thrust, the leather, that Italian leather smells so damn good, man. And like the way the seats sit, the way those little windows come down in the back, like all that shit, the fucking B on the front, like all. And so I was like, all right. So I borrowed it, used it. I felt what it felt like. I went to all the best steakhouses, went to Mastro's, went to everywhere, like just fully like just engulfed myself in like lived embodying that person, right? And I was like, cool, I'll be right back. So I went to the dealership. They were like, hey, you're a little under on these couple things, which was like, cool. It gave me like, okay, this is what I got to do. This is my checklist of actionable steps I got to take to close this and get my car. Took those steps, boom, went and picked up the car, and I had my name on the title. I made the payments on it. I saw myself, all that shit, and I got the Bentley that I wanted. And that one was
That's
mine.
awesome.
And I didn't let that shit happen twice.
Yeah, because it's not. I mean, a joyride's fun, but you want to park in the garage, right?
Yeah. So it's a little tip on manifestation. Make sure you see it all the way through, not just see it.
Yeah, my wife's so big into that. She's always, saying like, hey, you got to talk positive. Don't speak things into existence that are negative. She's really big into that. Something that she's always driving home. She's super positive. And it works, man. It really does.
Yeah, with my clothes, it does. On the collection floor, what I used to make them do is like when they had like a heater on the phone, like there was steps you would take. You would get the person warmed up, then you get them scared. Then it's like, let me see if I can do anything for you, knowing that you're going to take their damn money that they're offering. But you're like, let me see. Hold on a second. You got to build the suspense, right? So you put them on hold, and then I'd make them walk around the entire office and go like this. Bring the fucking energy. Bring that money energy to themselves. And they would just walk around. Everybody would do that. Stop. That's how I knew someone was about to close something. They were walking, boom, building it up. Get on the phone. I can't help you. Sorry. And they're like, no, please. Hold on. And then give it to them. Boom, close the deal. Like it was just, you had to build that energy that you have to build that, like your heart chakra. You have to build your electromagnetic field bigger. You got to just do it, man. And so I'd make them do that shit on purpose.
Yeah, and like people that say that this is not true, just go to the beach, right? You just go to the beach, you just feel calmer, right? The vibration there, it just brings you calmer. Everybody, the pace right in Florida, right next to the beach, everybody says, oh, it's like, it's the beach vibe, it's the beach energy. It's true. Like everything's slower. The reason why is because
on the beach in Florida.
There we go. I mean, like the energy is mellower, right? Everybody feels a bit, oh, it's soft, it's smooth. It's okay if you come in at 11:15 instead of coming in at 11. Like it's smooth, it runs smooth. It's just vibration, right? Same thing with alcohol. You drink alcohol, and drops you down your vibration. Like it's proof, like it's there.
That's why it's called
proof's in the pudding. Yeah,
It's called spirits because it lowers your vibration and allows the spirits to take over and do all the stupid shit you wouldn't do if you were in a high vibration.
That's crazy. Yeah, I have a very good family friend that was trying to get pregnant for like a year. Didn't matter what she did. Couldn't get pregnant. And she was talking to, I think it was one of the doctors, to be honest, which is like, this is completely like anti-medicine. And he's like, go on vacation for like a month to a beach with your husband. And she's like, why? She's like, just trust me. Go there for a month, have a good time. And she came back pregnant. Like she did everything she possibly could, but that being like tranquil in that environment, you know, with the mindset of, hey, I want to get pregnant, and they got it done. It was nuts. It might have been longer than a year. It might have been a couple of years.
Power of intention,
right?
Brother. Yeah.
That's good. That's good advice. It is. It really, and I mean, like for you, it's super interesting. Like your story, I didn't know the background, the intent, like how you went to managing 150 closers, going to opening your shop afterward, handling all that money, the drug, the addiction, and now then getting your family threatened by it and like having that. What's the whole way through? What's the biggest lesson you've learned through that you wish you could be able to tell your younger self, like at 20, right? On that sofa, dude, like, here's the advice I've learned my whole life, and here's what I can give you. I think a lot of listeners could appreciate that. And I mean, I've learned a lot just in the last 40 minutes.
Dude, well, there's layers to that. I mean, I can't really say like a blanket statement that I would tell myself, but one thing would be, I wish I was more disciplined and organized earlier. I wish I understood the value in clarity of goals and like the crystallizing the vision of what you have for yourself so that you can reverse engineer what it's going to take to get you there. All I've done my whole life is just go all in and just see what happens. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to give it my all, and which I've done in so many situations. If you follow me, you know I go all in, man. I don't fuck around. And I just see where it takes me. You know what I mean? I leave, but I'm always like open and like checking for opportunity. I never like just like seeing out like pass me by. You know what I mean? Opportunities, I see them. And then I'll look at what like the spectrum of opportunities, and then I'll pick which one I feel would best guide or get me in where I'm trying to go. You know, I wish I understood that a lot sooner, like playing chess with your life, you know, just being very specific and intentional with every move. I was more free flowing and just let shit go, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
great advice.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's your past. It's an interesting one. Let's talk present, you know, traveling screen print technician. What does a day, a week, a month look like in your life? I know we see some of it through the Instagram social media lens, but I'm sure we don't see all of it. What does that look like for you?
Well, let's say like I like to have my weekends to my family and myself. So if I can avoid working weekends, you know, I will. But if there's something that's important, you know, I get it, you know. But typically I'll fly out to whatever the location is on a Monday, and then I will show up on site, kind of assess the project, and then I'll start putting together my game plan. And I'm an action guy, so I'll just immediately start taking action. Because I've done so many of these things so many times, I'll just look at it and be like, okay, I know I need this, 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 and this. These are the tools I need. This is the, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'll figure it all out, map it out in my head within a few minutes, and then I just start taking action. Start stripping pieces down or building pieces up, whatever the job requires. And I try to get it done when it comes to a build, I try to get them done really, really quick because I'm more excited for the training than I am them watching me build a piece of equipment for a few days. So typically, like, let's say a 14 color, or I just did a 12 color yesterday, right? So I did a 12, 14, 12, 14 station, 12 color. I was given 3 days to do the build completely. I got it done in less than 1 day. And then that gives me time to spend time with the client. So when I leave that place, I know that they're comfortable using the equipment as opposed to, you know, giving them 1 day or even 2 days sometimes isn't enough. You know, like there's shit that happens outside of those 2 days that may not have happened in those, you know, 16 hours that you're spending together with these people. So,
that's where the value is for them. You know, there's a lot of techs, you know, it's like, okay, well, I got to be there for 3 days, and literally like 2 hours before they leave, they're just, you know, tightening the last bolt kind of thing. And then they take off and the customer's like, oh, that's great. I don't know how to use this machine.
I see it all
looks
the
nice.
time, bro. Like with other companies, like I'll see that like their tech will come in, just do their thing and try to get out of there ASAP. And I'm like, that's like, for one, like I like to build relationships. So when I leave their facility, I'm still there with them. Like they got me on, they can call me. They say, I've been so many times have I come back for up training and, you know, like they're like, hey, can you spend a week with my team? We need to learn how to scale. We need our systems and processes. What's going on? We can't figure this out. We can't figure that out. So I'll come back. But a lot of these other techs, they'll just do the job and get out of there. And they don't actually give a shit about the person that they're working with. And mind you, I'm not talking about every tech. I don't want people coming back at me. Like I haven't seen every tech and know what they do specifically, just from what I've personally seen. So I'll leave it at that before anybody gets all fucking salty.
Panties in a bunch. Well, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, a lot of techs don't know how to print, right? You have a print background, but that's not a requirement to become a technician, right? A lot of techs don't know how to screen print.
No, not at all. They're just builders. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say, like, if it was NASCAR, there's dudes that build the engine, there's dudes that drive. There's not many dudes that can do both. You know, like, this guy's really good at making sure this motor runs at full speed, but this guy's the one that drives it. So these guys are really good at building things, but they may not be as good at, like, understanding, like, what it's like to be out on the track, you know? So for myself, I've just put myself in situations to learn. Like, I did all those made labs. I sat next to Alan Benedict and his team, and I observed John doing his printing, and I asked questions. And like I filmed at a lot of these places where I'm doing tech tips or whatever, and I'll sit there, I'll learn. I'm not gonna go in there acting like I fucking know everything because I truly don't, man. Like I don't know shit. I know enough, but I'm not like some guru by any means. You know, there's dudes out there that are like light years ahead of any knowledge that I currently have, but I pay attention and I see all the nuances, and I ask questions and I apply in my own practice. You know, I'll learn something from this dude and I'll just start doing it. And it's like, okay, I see what he said doing like this, and what if I just tweak this, tweak that? And then I'll take these practices and make them my own. And then that's the stuff that I like to train people with. It's like, hey, these are the best practices of what I've learned so far. You know?
And like maybe you're not a guru, but at least you're sharing your knowledge that you have. Like there's a lot of gurus out there that don't want to share, right?
Well, I think that age of that type of character is kind of like dying away. As you can see on social media, everybody wants to be helpful for the most part.
Yep.
Like I think the only time you're really going to see any of that negativity, which I personally don't because I don't have a Facebook, but in like those Facebook groups, all I hear is like, oh, it just turned into this negative, you know, situation where people are just complaining and talking shit back and forth. And like even look what Lee deals with. He'll post something. Yeah. He's got to have 99 people talking shit about it, you know, like
but they tune into every episode and comment on every post,
and
which is
still
funny.
Listen and still follow.
You know what I mean? They're like, yo, this guy can't print. It's like, okay, then why are you following his page? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is like he's still offering that value even when he's catching the resistance, right?
Sure.
And eventually the resistance, nobody's going to pay attention to those people. Nobody gives a shit what this guy doesn't have to say that's not helping the conversation. Like what he was saying, like Shawn, you were saying, like, hey, if it's not helping the conversation or us move forward, then let's just not even say it. At some point, more and more people are going to realize that, and they're just going to drown those people out and not even pay attention to it. I know people thrive on negativity, and everyone wants to get that attention. They want to poke Lee with the stick and all that, so he can snap back at them, and they can be like, "Oh, I got into a beef with Lee." It's just for clout. A lot of times, they just want attention, and so I've personally never been somebody to even go into that realm. I don't go into the battlefield with people online ever. I'll post some stuff, and something I learned from Ryan Moore, which was really cool, was he's like, when you post videos, make sure that you say that this isn't the only way to do it, or this is the best way to do it, because there's so much information that comes along out there that may be contradictory to what you said and might be better than what you said. So he's like, I made that mistake where I said, hey, this is the best way to do it, and then come to find out, everyone's giving him shit about it because it's not, right? So I was always like, hey, this is one way to do it, or this is a way that I've learned to do it, things like that, so that it's not saying, hey, this is the only way to do it. And that way I don't open myself up to those type of negative, interactions.
Yeah. Okay. So in that sense, what's the way you've seen in most shop, like you go and like you service a lot of machines, right? What's the best way or best scheduling you've seen shops run for like preventative maintenance, for maintenance on their machines, especially like DT, like all the machines, like not just screen printing, embroidery, like all the machines. Have you seen shops that have that dialed in like every weekly, monthly? What's the best one you've seen?
Yeah, because just to jump in before you get into that, I literally have some shops that will buy a press and they'll run it for like 4 years and like never oil the thing, like zero. And then they just run these machines to the ground, and then there's a problem, and then like the machine's shot, and then we got to get people in there. So preventative maintenance is something that I think there's a massive lack of education around. And yeah, I mean, to Shawn's question, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, well, that was a really good question. And to answer that, in the way that I teach anybody that hires me, is the last half hour of your day. Just stop at the end of the day, get yourself ready for tomorrow. So it's preparing for tomorrow's successes is really what's important to me the day before. So the last half hour of the day, we're going to break this press down. We're going to wipe it down. We're going to clean it. Does it need any lube? Do we need to swap out pallets? Are we doing youth shirts tomorrow first thing? Like, what's tomorrow look like, and how do we prepare the last half hour of my day? How do I get all these screens in a row, all that stuff. So if you spend 30 minutes of each day, let's say just 5 minutes of that is only spent on the maintenance part of your press or your equipment, 5 to 10 minutes, you count that over time. This is where you start compounding things, like let's say 10 minutes a day for 5 days a week, 50 minutes a week you're spending on maintenance and preventative maintenance. You're not going to have issues down the line, literally ever. You're going to know what your indexes are at. You're going to know what maintenance cycle you need to be doing at that time. You're going to be on top of it because it's something that's a part of your daily practice. And even if it's something as small as 10 minutes or 5 minutes, like you can get a lot done in that time.
That's super smart.
I just came up with an idea.
That way it's not building up. Your press is always staying clean. You're not getting ink transfer from this print head to that shirt to over here to da-da-da. Everything's clean. Everything's brand new. You're walking in the next day like, fuck yeah, everything's titties in here. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's what I like walking into. I've walked into so many shops, and I've been guilty of it myself, where I got ink buckets that are open from the day before on the ground, and still in there, and this and that. Like, that's not. I can't walk into the next day and have to pick up yesterday's shit so I can start today. That's not success. Feel me?
No. Shawn's shop is sparkling, man. He's like definitely one of the top 5 cleanest shops I've ever been in. He's really, and we talked about this on a previous episode. If your shop's a disaster and there's ink everywhere, and one of your employees just drops ink, he's not going to care. He's just going to leave it for the next guy to step into or whatever. But if you get in that habit of having like a pristine shop, one guy drops anything on the ground, even a neck tag label, he's gonna be like, yo, I got to pick that up.
But also, this also goes with the values of the company as well, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So let's say like somebody does drop some shit on the ground, pick it up right away. If it's noticed, if you notice that you dropped ink on the ground, don't let somebody walk by later and step through that and drag ink through the whole shop and all that, and on the carpet and on the tile and everywhere.
It's massive.
Pick it up right away and get it done with. You know what I mean? And then let's say this is another part of the values of the company. Let's say that person didn't realize that they dropped it and they walked away, but you saw it. You go over there and just swipe it up real quick.
Sure.
Boom. Yeah. You could all work together. Like,
lead by example.
There's one shop that I was in, and there was literally plastisol on the toilet seat and the handle and the doorknob in the washroom.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't even sit down. Like, I couldn't sit on the sofa. It was crazy. It was the dirtiest place I'd ever been to. And it just breeds this like massive company culture of not giving a shit. Right.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even like look at your clients will see that. Let's say they come into the shop one day, like
Exactly.
you want to be able to present your facility and show like, hey, your garments are clean in here. Everything that gets done here is in a clean environment. I've seen, forgive me if anybody watches this gets offended, but the shop animal thing, dude, I can't do that. Okay, the shop because you're exposing all these garments to dog hair, dandruff, and whatever else. And let's say a client of yours is allergic, or their end user, the person that's actually physically buying the end shirt, if they're allergic to it, that's going to make that brand look like shit. And then it's going to make you look like shit. And then if you have dog hair on your clothes when you're passing it out, come on, man. Like,
well, how about
this? I've seen it so many times where people, like, no disrespect again. The dog
we see it all the time.
I can't do it, bro.
Now,
for me personally, at least.
Does the hypoallergenic Yorkie get a pass? The 2.5 pound hypoallergenic Yorkie.
Yeah, dude. You know what I'm talking about, though. Them people that have those
no, man, I totally all the time.
Laying
it's
on
just
everything.
covered. Yeah, and then it's sticking in the plastisol. Literally, you just got like heaps of plastisol on the ground with dog hair, and it's disgusting.
And like for us, the shop, the way it is, right? It's one of our best sales tools. Right? A client coming in the shop, and he like the first thing, like we put massive windows right next to it, like people coming in, they see the rock, they see all the big machines, because it's one of our sales tools. Like the shop is clean. I could pretty much eat a sandwich on the floor. Yeah. They come in, they're like, okay, my shirts are going to be done right. Like if they take care of their shop that much, the shop's going to be nice. Like we pay to have all of our pavement painted every single year so that the lines are white and crisp. Like we're really picky.
I could see that. Look at your screen right now. You know what I mean? Like, look the way you present yourself. I could tell you're different. You know what I mean? Like you run a high level situation. You care about those nuances. You care about what you look like, what your hair looks like, what the lighting behind you looks like. I thought you were on a freaking green screen. It was so nice. You know what I mean? Like. I could tell that you're that type of character, though. You know what I mean? And your customers can see that. Your employees will respect you more for it. You know what I mean? Like it's
a culture,
work environment. Yeah, exactly.
I love going to Shawn's shop. It's a bit of a drive. It took me 6 hours driving there. He wrapped my my truck maybe like 2 months ago, and then 9 hours to come home. He did a PPF satin wrap for me. I just got another compliment on it today, Shawn. So
it looks good.
Yeah, it looks great. Tilley, I came up with an idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and it might involve a little bit of work on your end, but I think it'd be a really cool idea. We're going to develop like a downloadables page on RB Digital on our site. We got getting back to the whole like co-opetition thing, which is something that Jesse from Avid, who are hosting the event, he's really big into that, trying to help people and bring the community together. And, I got some customers that, have developed some tools that they want to give. And I thought it'd be really cool to do like a powered by King Tilley, maintenance scheduler kind of thing where we can develop some kind of schedule with some, rules and advice that our guys could use that they could just download on there and just like pin up in their shop and just make sure that they take care of their equipment the way King Tilley would.
Okay, I'm down with that. I have no problem with that. I also want to talk to you about something else that's on my mind too. So we'll talk outside this. That's in line with what you're talking about right now.
I like that.
All right. I got some other ideas that I was going to talk to you about, multiple of them. So we'll take that offline afterwards because my wheels are spinning
Canada,
here.
Right, both of you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's this side. One of these two sides. I have a Canadian leaf back here.
No way.
Yeah, so I'm half Canadian. My real dad's from Canada, and he moved to America before he met my mom.
But you haven't said A even one time yet.
Yeah, I don't think I never said that before. But
he's half Canadian.
He's mom.
What? Who? Oh, yeah. Well, you got to do it once on camera.
I don't
just
know.
say I'm enjoying this podcast. A.
That's how you say it?
Just say A, E-H, but it's just like the letter A.
But I mean, you guys have to. There has to be like a way to say it. Like you don't just say it, right? You have to like say it and then that. I'm enjoying this podcast, eh? Like that.
There you go.
Oh, there
Yeah,
we go.
you got it, man.
That was good.
First ever on cam. That's like a
that was my very first one
Canadian. You just you popped your Canadian H, Harry. And how old are you, Tilley?
39.
39. Took you 39 years to do that as being half Canadian.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? When I was telling you about not being able to get over at the border or having trouble getting the border, I had mentioned that my father's from. He's like, dude, you can have dual citizenship. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, I had no idea.
I think you should move up here.
It's too cold, man.
I would hire you in a second. No, Vancouver's not cold.
No?
No, Vancouver's great.
No,
We should have you fly up to Vancouver.
Help me open the shop in Florida. I need your help to open the shop in Florida.
Hey, I'm trying to hire him. Get out of here.
Hey, but seriously though, let's have some conversations outside of this.
For sure.
Totally.
For sure.
Cool.
All right. We always get this question. We always jump into that section. I want to know what you think. What are your thoughts on DTF? Like for us, it was massive in the shop. What do you see it like? Where do you see it going? Like you're in every shop every single week. What do you think about it? What's your thought?
Love DTF. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I absolutely love it. And now that I've learned from people like Scott Garnett of King Scream in Roanoke, Virginia, if you guys don't follow him, make sure that you do. He taught me techniques where I can get the DTF to look and feel identical to screen printing. So much so that he would send me shirts every season, like Halloween shirts, and like he does like Halloween shirts for his company or whatever, and then he'll send me a batch. I had no idea it wasn't screen printed. I was looking at it up close and I didn't know. And I was like, what is this?
Is that the rip that he's using, or is it artwork that the way he's modifying his artwork? Like, what is he doing to get a really cool effect?
I'll let him tell you specifically what he does because I don't want to put any words in his mouth. But
we'll have to get him on the podcast.
But I'll tell you this because I don't want to misquote him either and say that he said something that maybe I've misunderstood. So, but I will say this. So, as you know, the DTF comes on a clear film,
Yep.
So what I do is a pre-press for like 5 seconds, hit the shirt, get it nice and hot, warm, whatever, get all the fuzzies down. Then let's say, hypothetically, the DTF sheet needs to be heated for 10 seconds at 310. I'll knock out those 10 seconds, pull it up, peel it when it's, depending on warm, cool, whatever, peel it when it's time. And then I go to Joann's Fabric and I'll buy an art canvas, right? Just a blank art canvas. And then I'll cut the frame out, just cut the canvas out. And I'll use that instead of a Teflon sheet for my second hit. And it allows all that moisture to escape. And then it gives you the texture of the canvas into the print. And it looks like screen printing. And then it's a matte feel. It's not shiny. It doesn't feel like a sticker.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
It's so funny you say that because we used to tell people parchment paper. So which also makes it more. But if you actually get another T-shirt and you cut out the T-shirt and you put the T-shirt on the T-shirt with like a T-shirt transfer T-shirt, it does a better job, which is going to be very similar to what you're doing.
Okay, but it doesn't give you the texture. That's the big thing is the texture. Yes, it's still evaporating all the moisture from out of there, which is giving you that matte feel. Awesome. But it's the texture. Try it, dude. Fucking go get.
Dude, I'm trying it. I don't know if
you have Joann's or whatever you guys got in Canada, whatever it's called up there. But go to.
It's called Joann's A. Joanne.
So go to Joann's A and get yourself a canvas, like a decent size, 20 by 24, whatever, and then literally cut it out and lay that on there with the canvas side face down onto the ink.
Smart.
Tilley, I have sold 300 DTF machines in the last 3 years, and I probably have 48 on back order right now. And this is probably the most valuable thing that I have heard, which I think is going to be huge for my customers because it's one thing that everyone struggles with.
Find the right one that works for you, sell it with your machines, and then make it a product that you keep in-house. Like you buy your own rolls.
Yeah, but I need you to sign it. I need you to, I don't know if you know this, Shawn. He's got this thing whenever he accidentally prints on a pallet.
I guess they have a the client.
The client, because they don't run the no shirt detector, I guess. So when they print on the pallet, he gets them to sign it, and it's kind of like a little thing he's got going on.
Well, I'll tell you this: that wasn't an original idea for me at all. I give Zack and Coma, which is his buddy, I give them both credit for that. And basically, the idea behind it is it adds a level of accountability, because if you're stamping pallets, it means you're not paying attention, right? Anybody's gonna hear that smack from across the room. Bah! As soon as that shit comes off the pallet, you're gonna hear it, and then next thing you know, you got a pen flying at you. All right, you got to sign the pallet.
I like
you fucked up, whatever, sign it, and then you just keep moving. But it's just like, it makes it fun, but it's also a level of accountability at the same time. Like, hey, pay attention, dude, or else you're gonna be signing pallets all day like an idiot.
Does Rock not have the no t-shirt detector where, like, if there's no shirt on there, it doesn't print?
Yeah, so they have it for the Eco Press, which is the highest level press, and then also for, I mean, I'm sure it's on the oval as well, but the next one down that you can get it as like a modification is for the Next, which is the mid-level press. So you can get it for that, and it's just, I've installed them before on those that didn't have it. We kind of, software had a little goofy trip here and there, but we got it figured out.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the M&R DCC Global line, they put it as a standard feature. It's not even an option on every single press. It's pretty handy, especially since a lot of guys, it's kind of like a starter press, you know, the Copperhead Flex Plus. So it's a nice little thing to have on there.
T-shirt detectors, we get rid of the foot pedals, and we get
rip it all off.
Yeah, fuck all that shit. We're getting to it.
Love
we
it.
just get the job done, man.
Love it. Tilley, one thing that I see. Yeah, for sure. One thing that I see a lot of, shops always really interested in, I'm sure you got a ton of them. You've been in this space for a long time. What are some of like your favorite shop hacks? Like things that you've seen that will, save money or improve production or help you get a bigger print? Like what are some of your favorite Timbits that you've gathered over the years?
Well, something that I learned when it comes to production and workflow that I learned from my friend Josh Merrill. He owns a company called Liquid Graphics in Santa Ana, California. And they're all about volume. They move units, and it has to flow, man. And I asked him, like, how do you plan for that stuff, dude? And the way he explained it was like he had these military assets where he's got his tanks, he's got, he's got his main, like these guys and that guys, and these pieces of equipment, or he looks at it like it's a military operation almost. And he's like, all right, I'm going to assign these tanks for this project, and that's going to kill all these guys over here, and I'm going to assign these ones in this group in this order. And so the way he just planned everything, it was very specific, like what machine, what dryer, what folding machine, what, like everything was so dialed. Like the plan, the whole plan has already been laid out before it even gets started. It's not just, it comes into a production list and moves down the line. Like there was thought that went into these situations, and like going that deep was like super cool. So what I took from that was like, because I'm not, I don't have 15 autos running 24 hours a day, so I'm not on that scale by
Thank God,
means.
that sounds like a headache. That's tough, man. It's hard to keep two of them going. 15? Jeez, that's a beast.
They've got a whole different operation over there. But if you bring it down to like a micro scale, let's say like you're a shop that only has like one or two operators, right? Like you're a normal shop. Because I was a single person operator, what I had to do was plan all of my success, like I said before, in advance. Like I would look at the forecast of the next week or the next 2 weeks, and I would look at every project that's on that list, and then I would see sorry, stupid fucking battery. I would see how many screens I needed for each job, and then I would break it down like, okay, like for all these jobs here, I need 6 110s, 6 156s, 22 20s, and I need like 10 305s. And I would get all that stuff prepared in advance, get all the films prepared in advance, get all the inks prepared in advance, get all the garments laid out in advance, and then I would just run production nonstop, basically Tuesday through Saturday, where my press was just moving from job to job to job to job to job, just moving. And then there was one day for like breakdown and reset up and all that stuff. And
way more efficient.
yeah, it worked really well for me. Instead of like a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll do it one job at a time. Go burn the screens, go get the ink, tape them up, set it up on press, finish that, QC, box it up. All right, what's next? Okay, start the process over. So by knocking it all out in one segment, I was able to just continue. You know, I read Mike Mikowski, I think that's his name. He writes all these books. You know, what was the name of the one that I read? Fix This Next. There was a book called Fix This Next. And there was a process that I kind of lost my thought on that. What was I saying? I forget. I'll come back to it. But anyways, that was something that was really helpful, was just being like knowing the forecast in advance instead of just job by job, or like whatever the squeaky wheel is. I see that a lot. Whatever the squeaky wheel is, let's go get that done. You know?
Yep.
And then like something that I think a lot of people can take from this little comment right here is under promise and over deliver. So
big time.
So instead of saying, yeah, I can get this back to you in 5 days or whatever, you know, you're putting pressure on yourself by doing that. Extend the time. Say, hey, I'll get this back to you in 14 days, or, you know, whatever your full time is, and get it back to them in 5. Because they won't be hounding you for it. They won't be on your phone like, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? You're saying, hey, give me 2 weeks, and you get it done in a week. That person's going to remember that transaction big time. So they're going to be surprised when they get called 5 days or 7 days early that their project's ready to go. And they're going to be way more happy to leave you a review and any other positive news and talk well about you as well.
Totally. I literally do that on every quote for custom order equipment. If my supplier tells me it's going to be 2 weeks, I'm adding a week. You know, if it's going to be a month, I'm adding 2 weeks. No one's ever been pissed saying like, oh man, my equipment's early. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Everyone's always itching for it. And the last thing I need is my phone blowing up constantly. Like, yo, I got a job. I scheduled a job. Where is it? I want to start printing, which I don't know why people do it. I have people that will literally, they buy a full auto setup. They have no idea how to screen print. And then they're hounding me like, where's my machine? Where's my machine? I have to print jobs. You've never even printed you don't even know how to burn a screen. Why are you already promising jobs with a deadline? Like 2 days after you get an auto setup. It's crazy. Like, I'm like, well, I always tell people like, buy $5,000. Yeah, go ahead.
I think what they're trying to do is make you feel bad, you know, to get you to move a little bit faster. They may be just BSing you at the same time too. You know?
Oh no, they're not. Sometimes we've helped customers run jobs. I'm not over exaggerating. Literally, we install the machine. They're like, please, can you help me run this? I'm like, are you serious? This happens all the time. It's crazy. Yeah, and some stuff's easy. Like a DTG machine, we could, you know, plug it in. We'll get you trained in 2 hours, and you're pretty much good to go. There's always ways to improve, but like you'll get the basics done. But like screen printing, I can't teach you that in 2 hours. Like it's not going to happen. I can't even teach you in 2 weeks to be a master at it.
I'll teach him in 2 hours.
No problem.
There we go.
We're on the same wavelength already.
No, setting expectations, right? And I think like people are just having a hard time just delivering on what they're promising. So if you even if like you don't like if you just deliver on what you're offering, you're killing pretty much 80% of all the business out there that are not even delivering on what they're promising. So if you're able to deliver on what you promise, and that's just setting up expectation with your sales team and letting them know like, hey, here's what's reality, here's what we can do. And if your sales team's able to translate that to your clients, you're going to make a good living because you're going to deliver on your promise, which is 80% better than all the business out there, because you're buying stuff that's not in stock. You're buying stuff that's not being delivered on time. You're not getting there's so many messed up situations that I see now. And like, I live with having experiences buying online and working with other businesses. I'm like, how are they making a living? Like, we make a living from referrals. We make a living from having reviews and delivering on time and over delivering, right? We always try to over deliver, but sometimes it's not possible, but at least we're delivering on time.
Yeah. Another thing that I see that's a huge weakness. Hold on a second. Let me grab my phone charger because this is a good convo. So
yeah, we don't want to lose this. And just so you know, when we say, all right, guys, take care, do not end it, because you need time to upload or else you will lose all your video feed. You're a very handsome, strapping young man, and we need people to see who's behind that voice.
I did this same thing with the shirt show.
Oh, nice.
So something else to take into consideration. This is a psychology hack. So when someone comes in coming from another shop that they didn't get good results in, don't talk shit about that. All right, whatever, man. So hopefully this doesn't happen again. But one thing to remember is to not talk shit about another company when a client comes in with a problem with that company. Rather, what you should be focusing on are actively listening to the pain points of what this person was displeased with the last organization they used. Then you are going to take that information, keep it to yourself, double down on it in that transaction. So if it was late that they were having issues with, that the timeline was passed, make sure it's early. If the color wasn't right, make sure it's right. If they didn't get the right garments, do whatever to make sure that transaction and that situation never happens again, and you will have a client for life.
Amen.
Yeah, it's. I actually train my sales guys to do the exact same thing. When a client is coming over from another dealer, don't just bash the other dealer and tell them that they suck, because you know what, they might have been with that guy for like 12 or 15 years, and he might not service their business needs, but he might be a buddy of his or something like that, right? A lot of these guys, I'm friends. I mean, I don't even know how many of my customers were at my wedding, like maybe 30 or 40. Like, I get close with my customers, and they have that relationship with their old dealers. So although they might be looking for another supplier to service their business needs better, they still might be buddies with them. So if you just go start and smashing that guy, then they might be like, yeah,
it just makes you look weak in general, just as a human.
Totally. Yeah.
So
totally.
Don't go making the rest of the industry look like shit. You know what I mean? By adding fuel to that person's fire. Like, just bring them back down and show them a great experience. Actively listen to what the true pain points are and make sure you double down.
Oh, 100%. And I think, like, for us, training our sales team is really more on educating our clients, right? If somebody's come to use, right, he's having pain points or he needs your business. So there's no way he should be looking elsewhere. So if we're just there to educate our client, like, hey, here's what we're good at, here's what we can do. Maybe you have some questions about that. Here, I can clarify this. And so we can understand and agree to terms to work together. Because obviously you contacted me not to waste your time, right? You contacted me because you want to get some apparel done.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the solution for you, and here's why. So I'm not there to sell. I'm just there to educate you, right? Because I know this a lot more than you do, because I do this every single day. Yeah. So I'm here just to confirm your thoughts and like what you're scared about in the industry. And we have a pretty big print on demand client that came from somewhere else. And he was coming to me with like pain points of like, all right, dude, but they're taking 75 days to ship these products. I was like, well, I'm sad that sorry and sad that you had to go through that. And the customer service that you had to go through, that we're going to have a repercussion of those things, because next year, you're probably not going to have the same amount of orders because of all that bad mouth that you got. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's massive. Like, I'm not looking at it right now. I'm looking at it in 10 years down the road. Like, if I'm not able to deliver for you, where is that going to bring our business 10 years down the road? That's not feasible for us. So here's what we're going to do. We're investing this much amount in having stock apparel here live in place. We're making sure that we have a software that can handle all the orders. Everything can be processed and streamlined, right? So we're using Principal through that to make sure it's streamlined. He can be notified exactly when it comes in. Our whole team, our team, like, we have things dialed in, and we thought about all the mistakes and problems that you could have. So here's what we do to work around it. I'm not there to sell. So he asked me, hey, can I get this done on my shirts? Can I get, he wanted to add patches to his shirts, like woven labels on them. I'm like, we can do them, but I'm not going to be good to deliver on time. So I'm not going to offer it to you, right? It doesn't make sense.
As well.
Yeah. It adds complexities to your business too. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like, it's going to slow down your lead time. You're going to have to put an upcharge on it to make it worth your while, which is going to price out your customer to begin with. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's not. So people often say, I need to be a closer. I need to sell. My best advice is be passionate about what you know, what your industry is. And then you're going to be able to educate your client. So he come
and be
and
transparent about your operation. Like you said, I got big windows. Those windows are there so you can see what's going on. And Tilley, I don't know if you ever dealt with this before. And you talked about earlier about the newer generation want to share. They're actively posting on Instagram. They get a new machine, they're flexing, or they're just trying to talk about how great it was and like, hey, industry, don't buy this. But when I first started with RB Digital, which is almost 6 years ago, a lot of the old school shops that my company, you know, we've been around 160 years, used to deal with. So when I first started, you know, my partner Kevin is like, hey, go check out, you know, these shops. They've been with us for like 30 years, literally, some 40 years. And I would go in there and they wouldn't let me in the back of their facility. Literally. I'm like, hey, can we check out the production? That's usually how I like to start. You know, when I go visit someone for the first time, like, do you mind if we do a quick walk down before we sit down? So, because I want to see what's going on. I want to see if there's things I can recommend, things that I think you could do a better job on. And they're like, no, nobody goes back there. I'm like, well, what am I here for? Like, I'm here to, I'm not a sales guy. I'm here to be a business consultant and help you improve and see where and like, and the funny thing is the old school generation, they think that what's going on in the back of their facility is like, you know,
top
something
secret.
That's unforeseen in the industry. No one is doing it, you know, like a patent pending technology or process. Everyone's doing the same shit. I've seen it all. I go into hundreds and hundreds of shops a year. You're not doing anything special. I don't care who you are. I've never walked into a shop yet to this day and been like, wow, I've never seen anyone doing this. This is so far, you know, in its own space. Ever.
Yeah.
Hey, be honest. When you came and saw the stamping in on the rocks, you were pretty impressed.
But I'd seen it already. You know what? Actually, you know, one thing that I saw that impressed me, which I never saw before, is Shawn had 2 piles of shirts. One was prints that came off the DTG, and then another one that was coming off the heat press that looked exactly the same. And I'm like, Shawn, what's going on here? He's like, touch this one. I'm like, okay. He's like, now touch this one. I'm like, okay, they're the same. He's like, no, they're not. He's like, I heat press every single one of these prints after I've printed it to improve the hand feel. I'm like, what?
It looks so much better.
Get out of here. So for me, we would produce, like, we were printing for, like, you know, Redbubble and that kind of stuff. You know, we're getting 3,000 to 10,000 orders in a day. I can never have an extra 7 seconds, you know, because it's contract DTG printing. You know what I mean? It's like contract screen printing. We don't have the luxury to sit there and heat press every single shirt afterwards. But that's what's given Shawn that, like, edge where he's able to land these customers, because he's doing things that nobody else is doing. You're billing for it. But I wouldn't say that you're a contract DTG shop by any means, right? You weren't doing the kind of stuff that we were doing.
That's why for us, doing hopefully 5,000 to 2,000 orders in a day is going to be as profitable as doing a Redbubble that's doing 10,000, right?
Totally.
Less volume, but still bigger margins, because it's just, so it depends your niche and your market. Yeah.
So,
hey,
so Tilley,
there's one thing for sales that I think, last thing that I'll say is a good tip, and this actually worked for me recently. So we always have those deals where it's like starts to get cold, or you're like having to chase them down, like, hey, are we gonna go? Are we gonna move forward? What are we doing? I had one recently where the guy was stringing me along, and I said this exact line of words. I said, I've made multiple attempts to reach you to start your project. How do you want to proceed? And within 10 minutes, he paid. And what that does is that word track, it's not, hey, I'm just following up with you, or because you're giving them the power when you give away your power in those situations, in those sales situations. So when I use that word track, I've made multiple attempts to reach you, or I have it in my phone, but anyways, I've made multiple attempts to reach you to start your project. How do you want to proceed? And
there's only one answer.
Yeah, and you could you could even be more direct and be like, you know, are you ready to proceed? Like, you know, you could. It's the same idea, right?
But no, but you asking?
No, you're asking the question. Sorry, no. You're right. Yes, you're asking.
So you give them the option to say no.
How do you want to proceed? I've made multiple attempts to reach you concerning your project. How do you want to proceed?
Yes.
That only gives them.
That's what I meant.
You,
one option.
Let's pay. Yeah.
Totally. Yes.
That's 100%. Really good.
No more games. It pulls all the games and it puts the power back in your hands.
Totally.
So trust me, and I heard somebody say that, and I tried it. I had an opportunity to try it a week later, and it worked. Within 10 minutes, I had that money in my hand.
Yeah. No, it's exactly, again. Go ahead, Shawn.
Yeah. Oftentimes, it's like people are scared of having those hard conversations because they're not confident in their product, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're confident in your product and what you're offering, and you know what you do, and you're making it well, and you know you can deliver on what you're selling, then by no means be scared of having those hard conversations, because it's going to benefit him down the road. Like, your product is good for him. He's going to make money off of that, or he's going to use it for a good time, or you're going to be there and you're actually going to help him. So in my mind, when people are like, oh, well, I'm scared of like stepping over that boundary and dude, is your product good or not? Is it going to help him? If it is, then you're not. You're actually helping that person. So you're doing yourself a like not being good for yourself and your business and your staff and your team by not doing that. So I tell that to my sales team all the time. Like, don't be scared of having those hard conversations, because you know what? We deliver on what we say. So we're better than 80% of the business that don't deliver on what they say. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, and people are scared. They're scared of what other people think. So they're already in their mind playing out that this person is going to get frustrated, or they're going to ask more questions, or whatever that they're opposed to. They're thinking in a defensive mindset as opposed to an offensive mindset where I'm going to get this deal, no matter how much I got to do what I got to do. Like, it's just the person themselves doesn't have a personal, like you said, a confidence. May not be with the product, because the product might be good, but themselves, they may not be confident, and they need some help in that aspect.
100%. But if they're confident in the product, so like the reason why we read all of our good reviews every single week is just to remind my sales team, hey, this is not me telling you guys that we're good. This is what people think of us.
I like
right.
That.
So they're reading it, and they're believing it. When they believe it, the way they speak goes differently, because their beliefs actually change. Now they believe that we're actually good for the client. And it's true. Like we spend really a lot of time on making our systems and making our products really good. So this is why I want them to believe what they see and what we deliver, because we actually do deliver on time. We actually are there for our clients. So I hear them every time we do those talks during the week. And I just say, hey guys, look at all the review we got this week. And they read them out loud. The next 5 to 6 hours, their voice and their intonation, like the way they speak, the speed of the way they speak goes so well with their beliefs. So they slow down when it's really important. They go faster when they want to say a lot of things. And it comes in natural, right? So the intention and the belief behind your product is a lot bigger than actually your belief in yourself. So I think going through that as a sales team, or even why the 95% of entrepreneurs that start the business is the best salesman in the business, because he actually believes it, right?
Yeah.
So if you can have that mindset with your sales team, it's massive.
Yeah, I think it's important to believe in what you're selling. That's one thing that I've always been very fortunate at RB Digital. I truly feel that my company over the years, and Kevin Price, my partner, playing a massive role in this, he really has curated the best of the best, the gold standard product in every single category. Brother for DTG, Tajima for embroidery, Mamaki for DTF, M&R for screen printing. And it makes it a lot easier when you're selling something that you're confident in. The last thing I want to do, the only machine that I've ever sold that I was not confident in was when DTF first came out. It was these Chinese DTF machines, and you're putting them in there, and you're like, oh. But the conversation I would have with my customers is, listen,
it's different.
This is getting made in China. I can't guarantee there's going to be no problems. There's a very good chance there will be. I'm going to install the machine. The wiring's probably gonna be messed up. I'm probably gonna have to change a board. We're gonna go through a lot of bullshit, but this machine is gonna print money, and I have the infrastructure to support you. So this was how we would have to, for the first time ever, alter our pitch. But it's not like I'm saying, hey, I'm selling a, Racoma or a Melco embroidery machine, and I'm afraid of putting it out there and never getting a good hat. You don't have that concern, because we know it's something that we could fix. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was, one thing that Lee, was super frustrated about. Even when he brought in the Melco, he was so excited about it. He wanted to jump into embroidery, really push it, but he was never able to get a decent hat out of it. And when I talked to him about, like, hey, I think you should look at Tajima, he's like, no way. Embroidery is terrible. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, okay, can the Tajima do hats? I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Of course it can do hats. It does hats very well. And it was such a challenging thing for him as a business owner, because he didn't have confidence in what he was producing. And he told me, like, literally, I remember he ran that first. He didn't even let us finish setting up the machine. Like, he was so anxious, he didn't even let us get it dialed in. And he put in a cap and he hit it, and he sends me I don't remember if it was a video or a text, and he's like, dude, it came out perfect the first one, no problems. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to do, right? So it's really nice to believe in something you're selling and know that it's quality, and that comes to you as a printer as well. You having that confidence in knowing that you're dialed in, you're putting out quality, it makes it that much easier to sell, you know? So yeah, it's important. Tilley, I got one more. So, you know, you kind of talked about, you know, workflows and sales strategies. I just got off a call for, you know, a CTS. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on this, regardless of the manufacturer of the CTS. We have a lot of shops in Canada that, let's say, have 2 presses or 3 presses, and they're struggling with capacity issues. The one thing that they first come to mind is, I need another press, right? And they're still printing film. Like, I was in one shop, I think I mentioned this on a podcast. I did an ROI for them. They had like 4 of the T3270s printing film positives for 8 to 10 hours a day. And I did an ROI on a CTS unit, and it was like a 3 to 4 month payoff, literally. Like, I took their numbers and plugged it in. And I think especially up here in Canada, I'm sure the US, you see a lot of it too, but people don't see value in making an investment into that piece of equipment. But for me, I know, knowing what I know now, if I had my first auto, right, I would try and carve out a budget. But if I couldn't, it would be literally the next piece of machinery that I put in before I consider another auto, because faster setup times, more output, you know, less real estate, less investment. I think for me personally, and Shawn's a believer, he has the LTS. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that is crucial to have a piece of machinery like that in an auto shop?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree any more with what you just said. Once you get the auto, get the imaging part of your production or pre-production taken care of. Like, that one tool alone is so valuable, because really the only consumable is the wax pods or whatever it may be that you're using in whatever piece of equipment, as opposed to how many rolls of film and how much ink you have to constantly load into these cartridges, and
setup time.
Nightmare. Just the consumable ends alone. I think ROI on LTS is like 2 years, 2.5 years, depending on, you know, how big your production is. But that is a huge. I mean, they're fast, but they're not that fast, you know. But they're very, very detailed, very specific, very like. They're so freaking awesome, dude. You have
I just see so
single.
Dual.
Yeah,
the dual 8.
You went big.
Yeah, the 8012.
I see so many. Yeah, I mean, you have the consumable savings. That's one. You have the especially if you're going with like a Unicode, you know, some kind of code device, you're getting rid of the, you know, complexities involved in having the skilled labor on that. You're having the increased setup times, you know, you're pumping out more garments. There's the quality. There's just so many benefits that for me, it still blows my mind. Like, there's some big shops,
like
man,
your
that have
registration systems. If you have your registration
system
calibrated to your LTS, your CTS, whatever it is, your setup times are like, you're flying. As long as it's dialed and you got it dialed in the right way, you're flying on setup times. With myself, I was able to set up, I think, a 3-color with the test print done, ready for production, like after approved and ready for production within 3.5 minutes. And
wow, what about a 12 or 14 color? Like what's one of the best times you've put out, you know, in terms of a big, you know, job in terms of number of screens and how quickly you're able to set it up? Like, what's your flex?
Well, I personally, like, in my own business models, would never even take a job like that. So I wouldn't even bother with it. Not even more than an 8-color. Like, I wouldn't even want that. So for me personally, with the business model that I like to run, I like to go between single color up to 4-color, you know, somewhere in that ballpark, because it's the fastest up and down. I can just keep things moving. And so sometimes
outsource the rest.
Yeah, or else I just won't take the project, you know, if it's just not
interesting.
If it doesn't fit what we're doing. And because I'm not going to put a 14-color off on somebody else and expect them to produce it the same way I would, you know. So there's just been times where I wouldn't even take anything like that. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah, there's some massive print shops in the U.S. I think like Custom Ink was one of them. And I think they used to do like up to 4-color in house, and the rest they would just farm out because they've seen, like, you know, we don't see the money in these jobs.
Yeah, I was one of the people, not with Custom Ink, but with a company called Bonfire. I did a contract job work for them, and they don't pay screen fees. They just pay you for garments and prints. That's it. And a lot of the jobs they would send, like 8-color front, 8-color back, 12 shirts. I'm like, 16 fucking screens for 12 shirts?
With no LTS? With no LTS?
And you got to turn that shit in the next day out the door. I'm like, dude, you guys are reasonable with that. So I was always just, when I would do my scouting or like just looking for the type of jobs I want, I would always look for what I wanted as the money makers. The simple one color construction, they're doing, 400 or 500 shirts for their team, high vis, all that stuff's just single color, and I would just fly through that stuff, man. That was my bread and butter right there, man, because I can run through thousands of shirts quick, So
that's where the money's at.
I like to do the high color stuff for personal projects, for like something that I'm going to wear for myself, or like make a small run of that I'll sell to people personally. But that's not really my thing. I don't like it that much.
Yeah, and I mean, just and to go back to everything you said, like when I asked you earlier, just to wrap this up, like it's been an hour and 30 minutes, right? You were saying earlier.
I could go another hour and 30 minutes. It's been so fun.
It went back.
Well, I got
some food quick, but
news for you guys. You guys are gonna hate me. But when my phone froze up, it got rid of everything that we had done before. I had to completely relog back in. Yeah, so I don't know if the video.
Oh, but I think that's fine because I think I have it on mine.
That'd be tight, man. But I'm gonna I'm gonna look at the end. But I think because it made me re-sign in all together when I came back.
So it might be blur. It'll just be blurry then, probably, right, Shawn? Because that's what you're seeing.
No, it's uploading live as we speak.
Okay.
So now it's like 99%
uploaded.
Yeah. So it's uploading as like maybe we're missing 1%, maybe we're missing 30 seconds. But
you know what's funny? I talked that into existence. I said, make sure.
I've never done that.
I know, but I literally said, make sure that you don't log out so you lose all the footage of you. I literally said that, and it almost happened.
Hey, don't say stupid shit.
My wife is right.
She is.
And see, if you would have listened to what Shawn said and not spoke negative connotations into the situation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You spoke it into existence, like you said.
Right. We're going back to what we were saying earlier. I'm gonna jump back in and hit you with the advice, right? You were telling your younger self, and I really liked it, and I didn't touch base on it. I think we went to something else, but you were talking about discipline, right? And how you would wish you would had more discipline when you're young yourself. And for me, it's a massive part of my day to day, right? It's not just motivation. Motivation can jump out the door. For me, it's discipline, showing up for myself, showing up for my wife, for my kids, for my employees, for my team. Working out for me is my go-to place, right? I know you're a really goal-oriented person. What's something like your future goals? Where do you see yourself going in the next 5-10 years? And with that discipline, how are you going to achieve those things, right?
Yeah. So I do have future plans, but for political purpose, I'm just chilling on explaining any of that stuff, but it's still within the industry. Now, as far as how I'm going to get there, I'm already on my way. I've already been initiating plays to make that happen. I'm also open to other opportunities that align with what I'm doing so that we can get things moving faster forward.
I got some opportunities, buddy.
So I'm already working towards that play, and I have people in my circle that are everybody's doing their part. So as far as how I get there, there's a program that I actually have a PDF that I made. It's called Core 4, and what it is, it's intentional actions in 4 areas of your life every single day. One of those areas being your mind. So what I'm feeding my mind, whether it be a podcast, a book, journaling, meditation, things of that nature. Anything that would feed my mind. I do something intentional in that category every day. Then I do something for my body. I write down like what my exercise regimen is going to look like that day, or if I'm drinking just water that day, or if I'm fasting, or what the specific diet is. I'm very specific with my body. I'll have that category filled out. Then in my relationships, with my wife, my daughters, my friends, I'll text a few people. I'll make a list of like 3 people that I'll text a day, just letting them know I'm thinking of them, hoping they're doing good, those type of things. And then needle movers for the business being the 4th category. So what is it that I could do today that's going to move the business forward? Well, it's educating myself on understanding the role of a CPA. Is that going to help me with advancing what I'm trying to do financially? Maybe I should. Maybe I'll spend 20 minutes kind of understanding what a CPA does, so when I sit with one, I can actually speak the same language. Or if it's a new skill that I need to learn inside the business that I'm like lacking in, or that I just need to learn to move forward, period, I'm going to spend time doing that. Or if it's a meeting that I have to, hey, this is the meeting that's going to set this business to the next level. So that'll be in that category. So needle movers. So yeah, those are the 4 categories. And then on top of the sheet, I always write down something that I'm grateful for that day. So I do that first. I'll go in through my state of gratitude first so that I can feel really good. Like I talked about earlier, my electromagnetic field, make that as big as possible. Then what kind of day do I want to have? Boom. All right, this is what I want to do for my mind. This is what I want to do for my body, my business, and my relationships. And then I'll just follow the plan.
Love it.
This right here would be a needle mover for myself, considered like in my, like doing this podcast is going to get us in front of a bunch of eyes that I wouldn't otherwise have seen me, most likely. You have your own audience. You have your own audience. Once you post this, now they're going to be familiar with me. So this would be considered like a needle mover because it's going to spark interest in who I am and what I do. And then, hey, potentially down the line, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He's that expert that was on that podcast. Let me call him up and let me get his advice, or let me fly him down here and blah, blah, blah. So this would be considered a needle mover, you know? And that was in my business category today.
Dude, I love it, man. It's I'm really big on this quote. It's to know and not to do is not to know. So guys, like he's speaking from somebody that's actually implementing it, right? You're doing it on a day-to-day basis. You have your plan, you're doing your gratitude, you have your family goals, your friendships, your business movers, your body, your mind. So I think if you're not like you're starting your business, you don't really know what to do. I think your 4 C's, your 4 core, I think Tilley is a great stepping stone for like somebody that's looking for something. That's a great plan for them to start with. And to know and not to do is not to know. So guys, listening to this, if you think you know because you just heard Tilley say it, try it for a week and then tell me how you feel. Right. So that's one of the biggest quotes I really take to heart because
something that I can bounce off a quote that I like to keep in mind is, if you know better, do better. So like,
amen.
Like in any actions, like if you know better, like if you know like eating that cheeseburger is going to set you back, then don't do it. Or if you know that eating that salad is going to put you further in line, then do that. If you know better, do better. Feel me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is solid.
Some words of wisdom to tie up the episode 7 of the Ink Pod podcast.
Hey, you know 7 in numerology is the number of the genius, right?
Yep.
Wow, look at that.
Just saying.
That means we have to release this one as the 7th episode. I mean, sometimes we've been shuffling them around, but this one's got to be 7. It was meant to be. We actually had another podcast that was supposed to take place, but it's got to go through a bit of a process. So you made it.
Oh, this is 7.
Yeah, this is 7.
Thanks for the time, man. Thanks for joining on and coming us and taking this an hour and 40-minute podcast with us and help. I think there was really good nuggets for a lot of shop owners, especially for me. I'm going to take a lot of this and use it in my life. So thank you for sharing and allowing us to grow.
We have a friendship built off of this.
Yeah.
And now we can communicate outside of this, and I'm happy to go back and forth with you. I love to learn from you as well. You've got a lot of good information that I'm sure that I can use too in my life.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well,
we're all going to learn from each other. 100%.
Yep.
I'm very excited. I feel something big happening between the 3 of us. The trifecta. The 2.5 Canadians are going to take over.
Hey.
The 2.5. Love it, guys. Awesome.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, it was a good one. Take care. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.